Tour is the biggest project I've worked on. I mean, just the sheer volume of music that we're creating. We've got 5 full-time composers working on this, plus each one of them kind of has their support team.
And all of us have to work together, and we have common themes that we're using, and I wrote one theme, Mark wrote one theme, and then we have to use each other's, and that's been a real interesting challenge.
You try and put together a team of diverse composers that can cover a lot of ground for the types of scenarios you might have in the game. So we have guys that specialize in battle music, and I'm really good at some of the dark, moody stuff. For the Jedi Order, I was asked to start with John Williams' Yoda theme and then kind of take it somewhere a little new. And so basically just looking at Williams' Yoda theme and then sort of exploring it some more and seeing, kind of how I can develop that melody into something that becomes sort of like an extension of the Yoda material.
So in the beginning, I wasn't sure how it was going to work, but as we've been working on the project, we've all developed a pretty good working relationship. I mean, we're friends, and now we understand each other. And I just heard a couple cues that Lenny Moore had written that were based off of something I wrote, and it was, wow, this is refreshing. It's my music, but it's somebody else's music. So it's kind of cool the way it's working.
It's an incredibly exciting pace, but also there's challenges with that, and everybody who's working on this project is just, is up for that kind of a challenge of trying to do the best work they possibly can and just kick butt.
Yeah, well, it's a difficult challenge to write music that's fresh, but yet keep it within the idea of fans' expectations of what the Star Wars universe sounds like.
My approach was really to just immerse myself in listening to that music for as much time as I could and make it a part of my being, and just hopefully, rather than try to rewrite John Williams' music, just write what comes naturally because I've been exposed to it so much.
The object is not to photocopy anything that John Williams did. It's more of a starting off point, and also the game dictates in any, whether it's a Star Wars game or any game, the game dictates what you write for it musically. So in this game, it's set way before the Star Wars films as far as the timeline and the story. So that gives you a little bit of freedom inherently. The key is to honor the traditions that have been set up by John Williams in the films and other Star Wars games that have come previously.
I just look at how would you feel if you were in the place. How have my personal experiences, just as a human being, how would I feel if I were placed in Tython? And all of a sudden I'm this Padawan who thinks he's amazing, and I'm placed in this dangerous environment. What would that sound like in my emotions? And then I just score to that.
We've basically had to decide, what themes do we need as focal points, anchor points for the game. And it's class characters, like I mentioned, and then factions, Imperial versus Republic, the individual theme for both of those factions. And then planetary themes, there's planets that are in the films. If they're in the films and there's a reference for it, we try to make a nod to that.
We tried to schedule out each planet to be generally composed by one, to be handled entirely by one composer, so that they can develop their themes over the course of the planet. They can have one theme, one melodic idea that recurs in several different cues, just so that each planet has its own identity.
You do want to establish themes, you do want to reference those themes, and you want to develop them throughout the larger experience. Film is a little more, it's set in stone by the end. It's locked to picture. Every single event is going to lock. Here it's, there's a lot more interactivity. It's more of an open experience, but I think from a compositional standpoint, you still need to develop very strong themes and then be able to develop them, make them interesting, expand them, and know when to reference the various themes so that it ties together, it makes sense, and it also sort of guides the user experience.
You start with the principle that the story will never be done. And what I mean by that is that each person that subscribes to an MMO has a story within. You might, as a designer of a game, you're going to have a storyline that you want players to follow, but the individual people playing the game have their own little storylines. And if you have people that are role players, they're going to create a whole backlog of story. And so to me, the fun challenge with that is to just recognize that all these, it's stories within stories, and so you just you start by speaking to bigger themes.
What I found out is a lot of the people out there in the orchestra who, you know, may play Mozart and Beethoven and everything like that with San Francisco Symphony or opera and tour all over the world, they're thrilled to be doing Star Wars, and they're thrilled that the level of writing is a lot more challenging with this style of music for them to play. You know, it's very intricate. There's counterpoint happening. There's a lot of orchestral color, so they have a chance to actually play out, you know, and not just play a very simple part.
It's more about the experience, about the emotion that I want the players to feel, that the setting will give them. Everything has a different color. One of the great things visually about this game is that every planet, every area has a different color scheme. And you can hear that in the music. You can just hear, this is this emotion that I really want this planet to go by. So I guess the answer is I really didn't think too much about the Star Wars thing, but more about the player's experience and within the general idioms of orchestral John Williams music, but kind of taking its own turn, because this is a very unique game in its own right.
Sometimes people ask me about that, whether I'm intimidated by doing a project like this that has such a storied history and all that, but I'm just excited. I think the best way to describe it is I'm just really confident about what it is that I bring to a project, and I'm very comfortable, especially with live orchestra and live orchestral music. So this is what I love doing every day, and this is what I live to do. So I'm just really comfortable with it.
I think every note of this thing so far has just blown me away. On every level, I had no idea what to expect, working with so many different composers, and I think that, personally, I think that we've absolutely nailed it. I think the fans are going to love it. Time will tell, of course, but we definitely have tackled a tough task, and as far as I can tell, we've hit every mark along the way.
I think it's brilliant. Every day that I come into these sessions, I'm totally inspired by everyone else's work. Mark, Lenny, and Gordy and Jesse have written some amazing music for this game. It's quickly shaping up to be really something special, and every single time I hear one of their cues, I look at it and I try to learn something. I mean, we have some really, really talented people working on this project. I think it's going to sound spectacular.